Hello and welcome back. Thanks for watching. Before I get into the real estate news and statistics, let's hear from this week's sponsor.
I am Cash Alavi, your luxury realtor in Toronto. Look at this Cybertruck. Look at this Rolex. Let me make the luxury lifestyle for you.
So obviously that is not my sponsor. I don't do sponsors on this channel, and I really hope that was a joke. And next, just a couple of quick stories from X that caught my attention in the last few days. The first one here is from Matt Pukas, and I probably didn't say his name right. Colgan Crossing story explained. So if the old pre-construction buyers, the appraisals aren't coming in on value and they're all upset and they're protesting out front. And yeah, let's hear what this guy has to say about this here.
So there's this one development called Colgan Crossing where the banks are currently appraising the properties that have been sold there for about $400,000 to $500,000 less than the purchase price. And these buyers are protesting because they believe that the builders should honor the appraisal price and not the purchase price. What's also crazy is there have been homes in this development that have actually been burnt down because people can't close on them. And usually what happens is the builder does sue the buyer if they can't come up with the funds to close on the contract.
And this story is not unheard of. This happens all the time. And of course, fires in this neighborhood, I might want to add those to my list. I haven't updated it in a while, but there's just too many to keep track of. But yeah, moving on to the next one here. Now, I thought this chart was pretty interesting from Steve Soretsky. House flipping in Greater Vancouver has crashed to its lowest levels in at least 30 or 25 years. Sorry, 25 years. So I don't know. Yeah, you can track house flipping by the time a number of times a property comes back on MLS. I think this is maybe how they track it there. Yeah, I think, I sold within the last 24 months, it says there. And yeah, so it is down to its lowest level. Still too much in my opinion, but that's a good sign that the speculators and the house flippers I'm not so worried about because they're actually doing a service to society when they're, creating a nice product and flipping it and turning old homes into something modern and new. Sometimes they do pump prices a little too much, but again, this is a sign of the times. Investing in real estate is not what it used to be, and people are getting away from it. So it's good for buyers because that means more inventory for end users. And last on the list here is that 6.8% unemployment in Canada. Big number, went up 0.3% in a month. That was a big jump. Everybody's speculating about the rate announcement tomorrow and how big it will be now. It had been predictions for it to be closer to 25 basis points, but now after this news and some other news too, people are expecting a jumbo rate cut. But we'll see what happens, and we'll see how panicked the Bank of Canada seems. So Statistics Canada just released this little infographic here, or animated infographic. The unemployment rate increased 0.3 percentage points to 6.8% in November 2024, the highest rate since January 2017, excluding the years 2020 and 2021 during COVID pandemic. Now, I do have some charts with that unemployment data, or updated charts with it. Before I get into that, I do want to just take a quick look at the mortgage arrears because that was just released also at the end of last week for the month of September. Of course, we're 2 months behind because they need a lag time on that, but it'll be interesting to see how much that goes up or down or stays the same once it catches up to November to match that 6.8% in unemployment, because we know they're related. But here it is. It's still at 0.2%. It's been 3 months in a row at this level right now. Still very low. But again, mortgage arrears would be one of the last indicators on my home buying recipe to be affected or to move, right? So we'll talk about the home buying recipe in a second also. And here is the number of mortgages as opposed to the percent. And that, of course, is still over 10,000. Again, not a big change from the last few months. Now checking out the unemployment and the mortgage arrears and how they relate to each other. You can see there's a very similar trend. When mortgage arrears or when the unemployment goes down, the mortgage arrears trends with it. The mortgage arrears are in the red. And you can see like any one of these years of these peaks, even if you go back to the 2010, 2008, just before 2010 there in the middle of this chart, you see the mortgage arrears going up. And of course, the unemployment rate went up at the same time. And it seemed like the mortgage arrears almost almost went up first there. But there is no real trend on which one breaks first, just that they do follow the same trend. And then from 2010 to 2020, it's been trending down, or it trended down. And of course, COVID, that was a temporary spike in mortgage. But then it came right down. Both of them came down. Now look, of course, we know this. We track this. They're both headed back up. Now moving on to the unemployment rate versus the Bank of Canada rate. And you can see these are inversely correlated. So when the Bank of Canada rate drops, the unemployment rate goes up because there's that lag time. And let me show you here in the next chart what I mean by the lag time. So here we are. I'm just going to move my head here out of the way. And you can see back in, what year was that? 1995 there. They started to drop the Bank of Canada rate much like they're doing now because it had done its job and they needed to stimulate or bring the economy back to normal ways. And they started dropping that, but it was 18 months before the unemployment rate hit its peak. Moving on to just after the year 2000 there, 2001 or so, interest rates spiked almost at 6%, it looks like, on this chart, and they started dropping them, and it took 12 months for that unemployment rate, again, lag time for that unemployment rate to spike back up to 2007, 2008 period, started dropping interest rates significantly from like 4.5%, 5%, all the way down to like 0.5. This is where we had this zero interest rate periods or policies after this. But they went from 4.5%, 5% down to almost nothing. And it took 19 months after that for the unemployment rate to spike. And that spiked up around 9% or so, 8.9 or 8.8, I think it was. Then we're not going to get into COVID because that was such a temporary anomaly. But right now, our interest rates just started going down. They've been going down for about 5 or 6 months right now, and unemployment is on its way up. So we're only about 6 months at best into the interest rate drop, and unemployment on its way to spiking. So given this chart, it's going to be another 6 to 12 months before the interest rates spike. Now, before I get into the statistics from across the country for the month of November, I do want to obviously follow up with this here, the home buying recipe. And we're seeing unemployment start to go up. When it gets to 7, I'm going to add another bar there. I'm not going to add it right now. The rates are falling. I think I'm going to finish that one off. Maybe if this is a jumbo rate cut tomorrow, I think it is, I will fill that one right up because we're clearly in that pattern and it's been confirmed. We're just waiting for, like I said, another 1 or 2 cuts depending on how big they are. And then the arrears and the delinquencies are going to be last. It's a lagging indicator, but I'm going to update the power of sale data from our system probably next week. Okay, now into the data from across the country. I have most places in here. Ontario's a big mess right now just because we have all these boards switching, or a lot of people are switching to the Toronto Real Estate Board system. So like my board, London did, the Lakelands, the Muskoka area, all these boards, Guelph. So it's been a big hassle getting this data together this week. And also, one thing I wanted to point out is some things have switched or shifted on these charts. Nothing's really changed that much, but just to take note that a lot of times the boards, so we'll use my board as an example, we go by the board. So when we report data and the public announcements or the media releases, they are the board data, not just houses in the region. So if we have houses that if we list something in Toronto, but it's on our board, it's included in that data. Now, some places are the actual regions. So all of the Toronto thing, Durham, Toronto, and York, those are actually the regions. Whereas places like Windsor, Essex, that's board data. So they may list places, they might have a Toronto listing on their board and it's included in their data. So anyway, since we've been switching these things around, a lot of these are now back to the regions, how they should be to get specific. Instead of board, you're looking at region. So Niagara now is the Niagara region. Only properties in the Niagara region that are included in that data, not the whole board data, which could include properties outside of the region. Anyway, it's just a little note keeping there for this. But anyway, let's get into this here. This is month over month price changes from October to November 2024 for the average MLS price. And the biggest month-over-month drop was Toronto, down 6.4%, Guelph down 5.8%, Waterloo Region down 5%, Peterborough down 4.5%, Hamilton down 3.9%. More places down than up, as you can see here. Victoria, BC down 3.7%, Chilliwack and District down 2.3% month over month. New Brunswick down 2.2% month over month. Niagara down 2%. Kingston down 2%. Peel almost 2%. Saskatchewan down almost 2%. Ottawa down 1.3%. Edmonton down 0.9%. Calgary down 0.8% or almost 1%. Barrie, Simcoe, now that was one of those boards that I've included. I've included the whole region as opposed to the board data here. So this is the Barrie and Simcoe region here, district, down almost 1%. Nova Scotia down just 0.5%. York pretty even. Durham region up almost 1%, 0.7. Fraser Valley up 0.7. Windsor Essex up 0.7. London area up 1.1 month over month. Brantford up 1.4. Province of Quebec up 1.5, Montreal up 1.9, Greater Vancouver up 2.3%, Newfoundland and Labrador up 3.6%, and Halton region up 6.2%. Moving on to the percent change from the peak. These peaks are different months and years. Most of them are 2022, but a lot of places did peak this year also. But I'm not going to get into that this week. I'm just going to tell you the actual numbers. Peterborough, the biggest losers down there, 31.5%. Of course, people of Peterborough aren't losers, but the market is right now, 31.5%. Durham region down 27.1%. Waterloo region down 26.5%. Niagara region almost 26% where I'm from. They really did pump the market in Niagara and all these outlying places. London area also here down 23.4%. Hamilton down 23% from the peak. Peel down almost 23%. Barrie, Simcoe district down 22.5%. Brantford down 21%. That was a big area to pump to. Lots of speculation. Lots of pre-construction speculators in Brantford also. Fraser Valley down 20%. Guelph down almost 20%. Windsor Essex down 18.9%. Kingston and area down 17.8%. York down almost 17%. Halton down 15.5%. Chilliwack and District down 15.1%. Ottawa down almost 15% from their peak. Victoria down 13.7%. Toronto down 13.1%. New Brunswick down 7.4% from their peak. Nova Scotia down 5.6%. Greater Vancouver down 5.3%. Saskatchewan 4.2%. Newfoundland and Labrador, they're down 3.2%. Edmonton, not really down that much. They did make their peaks this year, 1.1%. Same with Calgary, down 1.1%. Not a big deal there. And province of Quebec and Montreal both up 1.6% from making all-time new highs there. I don't know what's going on over in province of Quebec and Montreal. Obviously, a lot of people want to live there. A lot of people want to get into the market there. But let's actually look at what that translates into dollar figures. Durham region, still the leader. I think they've always been the leader here for the biggest losses. $334,000. Man, that'll get you a new home in Saskatchewan. Maybe not a new home, but an actual home in Saskatchewan or New Brunswick or Nova Scotia. You can actually buy a home for what they lost there, which is crazy. Same with Peel, $306,000. Brampton, Mississauga, wherever else is in Peel. Big losses there. Lots of speculators there too, though. Peterborough, small place, down $278,000. Same with Waterloo region, $275,000. York down $263,000. Fraser Valley down $256,000. Niagara region down $239,000. Halton down $238,000. Hamilton down $235,000. Barrie and Simcoe $232,000. Guelph down $220,000. London down almost $200,000. Brantford $174,000. Toronto down $164,000. Victoria down $150,000. Windsor Essex down $136,000. Chilliwack and District down $136,000. Kingston and area down $132,000. Ottawa down $115,000. Ottawa's been doing pretty good from all those new public sector jobs. I keep on saying that, but I think that's probably why. Plus, a lot of the politicians. The one I talked about on X, the ex-housing minister, I think it was Ahmed or something his name was. He lives in Etobicoke, or his riding's in Etobicoke or somewhere in Toronto, but he bought 2 rentals in Ottawa. Now, would he have bought those rentals if he wasn't a politician, an MP? I don't think he would have. Well, he wouldn't have bought them in Ottawa, for one, and he probably wouldn't have had the cash or the disposable income or that solid qualification for income to do that. So, again, I'm not too happy that these politicians are, buying up properties, especially because they're working in Ottawa and taking advantage of that situation. So, kind of a conflict of interest, if you ask me. But anyway, let me know what you think in the comments. Maybe it's just me being picky. Greater Vancouver down $71,000. Nova Nova Scotia down 26, same with New Brunswick 25, Saskatchewan down 14,000, Newfoundland and Labrador down 11 grand, Calgary down 7, Edmonton down 5,000, and then province of Quebec up 8,000, and Montreal up 10,000, setting those new highs there. We'll see if that continues on. Now, this last chart is to be taken with a grain of salt because this is the market balance. But as you get into the slower, colder months, there's not as many listings coming on. In December and January, it will be even worse for most places. So this is, again, it's a slower time of the year. So, of course, it doesn't mean much because more places had actual price declines in Canada than had price increases month over month, but nowhere's in a buyer's market. So you'll see what I mean here. It's just there's not a lot of new listings in these cold winter months, which translates to a poor sales to new listings ratio. But anyway, let's check it out here. Market or balanced markets here, all the places, lots of Ontario places, Peel, Niagara, Windsor, Peterborough, Barrie, Fraser Valley, Toronto, York, Waterloo region, Halton, Hamilton, Kingston, London, Guelph, Durham region, Greater Vancouver. So a couple places from outside of Ontario, but mainly Ontario. Then you get into sellers markets with these ratios. Brantford, Victoria, Chilliwack and District, Ottawa, Calgary, Province of Quebec. Actually, now I'm getting into overheated. Sorry, Calgary was overheated sellers market because they have very, very high ratios. Not a lot of new listings and still a good amount of sales there. Province of Quebec, Montreal, Nova Scotia, Saskatchewan, Newfoundland and Labrador, Edmonton, and New Brunswick, all in overheated sellers market by these ratios. Okay, so that's it for this week. Things are really getting exciting. We have the rates dropping. We have the unemployment rising. Sorry for the people who lose their jobs, but for the greater good of Canada and humanity, it needs to happen. The cycle needs to play out. The government needs to stop interfering. But yeah, this home buying recipe over here is filling up. I'm sure we're going to have an update real shortly. I don't want to push it before it's supposed to happen. Of course, we want it to be accurate and true. But yeah, we're getting closer and closer to this cycle playing out, and it's a good thing. Anyway, as always, leave your comments down below, and I'll see you next time.